Hi, this is Daniel Park with an update for week 9 for the Professor UI. This week was mainly spent on wrapping things up. Uh, so right now I have the PowerPoint slide that I put together for our presentation for TIES on Friday. Basically, I thought the best way of presenting the information on what we did was to arrange it in a table. So on the left-hand side, I kind of have the technical sort of terms for what we worked on, and on the right-hand side, I pretty much broke it down to something simpler so people could understand what it is that we worked on. Let me see if we can put this into presentation mode. Okay, so here are the features that we worked on. The API, first of all, it prevents us from rewriting the same logic over and over again. Results in a smoother transition between new technologies. Talked about the new graphics that we did for the buttons, and its purpose was to provide better feedback in terms of the button states, whether the button is currently being hovered over, whether it's been pressed. So yeah, to provide more feedback to the user. I talked about how I worked on layers. So there were two huge layers, the canvas layer and the image layers, and it allows us to store what's been drawn, as well as the slides that have been used in a way that I think most people would understand if you break it down in terms of layers. Then I talked about content handling and database querying, which is what Ben and Lance were working on, and how it allows us to deal with how content handling allows us to deal with PDFs and images, and how database querying allows us to interact with the Clicker database and get useful statistics. Right here is a fancy little graphic that I took out from the midterm presentation and decided to add to here instead. Basically, it shows various layers of the UI. So if you were to flip the UI on its side and sort of split everything apart, this is kind of what it would look like. The very top is where you draw things on, and in the middle you have the image layer. Then closer to the bottom, a video layer. So this is where the stuff through the S video gets streamed through. And finally we have the master layer where everything sits on top of. Then I talked about future plans, which involves working on file output. That's pretty much compiling everything into a PDF or video format, and then finally being able to implement sort of touchscreen gestures like dragging and displaying other kinds of content like graphs. So for example, the clicker data, Aaron is working on sort of generating graphs from the clicker information, and we basically just need to find a way to get that image and throw it up on the screen. So that's what we have planned ahead of us. Also worked on the continuity report, so added in the graphics that I worked on as images, wrote some blurbs about the various code that was worked on, and talked about the file structure, the software structure, and ended with some suggestions for what we could work on next quarter. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this week.